On Christmas morning, I overheard my wife telling her sister in the guest room, "He's so pathetic. I faked every smile. Every gift I bought him was from his own credit card. He's like a trained dog." They both laughed while I sat alone downstairs. I just smiled and I waited until everyone left. 2 weeks later, her sister texted. She's screaming. Please answer her. Hey Reddit, I, 31M, have been married to Alice, 29F, for 5 years. Or I should say was married. Because what happened this Christmas changed everything. It all started 3 weeks ago. December had been pretty normal for us. We'd been decorating the house together, getting a tree, buying presents for family, all that typical holiday stuff. Sure, things between us had been a bit distant lately. Alice had been spending more time with her sister Holly, which didn't bother me. Sisters are close, right? I'd spent weeks planning the perfect Christmas gifts for Alice. Had to juggle our budget pretty carefully, but I managed to set aside enough for some nice jewelry, those wireless earbuds she'd been hinting about, and this fancy skincare set from that Korean brand she follows on Instagram. I was honestly excited to see her face when she opened them. Like a damn fool. Christmas morning rolls around. We had her family staying over, her parents in the downstairs guest room, and Holly in the upstairs one. Everyone was still asleep around 7 a.m. But I was up making coffee, thinking we'd all have breakfast together before opening presents. That's when I heard them, Alice and Holly, talking in the upstairs guest room. I was heading up to ask if they wanted coffee when I heard my name, followed by laughter. I froze on the stairs. The door was cracked just enough that I could hear everything. Theo is so pathetic, Alice was saying. You should see him every Christmas. Gets so excited about his gifts for me, like he's expecting a medal or something. More laughter from Holly. The best part, Alice continued, every gift I buy him is just from his own credit card. He never even checks the statements. He's like a trained dog, so happy with whatever scraps I throw him. I stood there, just processing. What the actual hell? They kept talking, but I can't even remember everything. Something about how she fakes her reaction to his gifts. How she's been doing this for years. How she finds it hilarious that I never notice. Holly asked her why she stays with me. Want to know the answer? His job has good benefits and he handles all the bills. Plus he's so easy to manage. Who else would put up with me like this? I quietly went back downstairs. My hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped my coffee mug. Had to sit down and just breathe. An hour later, everyone was downstairs opening presents. I watched Alice like I was seeing a stranger. She opened my gifts with these big fake smiles and exaggerated, "Oh my God, babe," reactions that I now realized were completely rehearsed. How had I never seen through this before? When I opened my gifts from her, a new watch, some premium headphones, and this collector's edition of a video game I'd mentioned once, I just smiled and thanked her, knowing full well I had literally paid for all of it myself. Her parents seemed oblivious. Holly kept giving Alice these little smirks whenever I said anything. The whole day felt like I was in some bizarre parallel universe where nothing was as it seemed. After everyone left on the 27th, I did something I should have done years ago. I checked our credit card statement. And holy shit, Reddit, it wasn't just Christmas gifts. For years, Alice had been taking out cash advances on my credit card, buying stuff for herself using our joint account, but telling me it was household expenses, opening store credit cards in both our names that I didn't know about, borrowing from our savings account without telling me I found charges for spa days, expensive lunches with Holly, designer clothes, all while she complained we couldn't afford to renovate the bathroom or take that trip I wanted. The next few days were a blur. I functioned on autopilot, went to work, came home, pretended everything was normal, but inside, I was seething. Alice didn't suspect anything. She was too busy playing with her new jewelry and posting pictures of what my amazing husband got me for Christmas on social media. The comments were all, "You're so lucky," and "husband goal," and I just wanted to scream. Every night when she fell asleep, I'd lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying that conversation in my head. He's like a trained dog. 5 years of my life with someone who saw me as a joke, as a goddamn ATM with legs. I started digging deeper into our finances, found out she'd been sending money to Holly too. Hundreds of dollars every month from our savings. For what? Who knows, probably just because she could. New Year's Eve, we were at a friend's party. Alice got drunk and spent the whole night ignoring me, then demanded I drive her home early because she had a headache. As I watched her immediately perk up once we got home and start texting, probably Holly, something just clicked. I wasn't going to be the punchline anymore. I wasn't going to explode or confront her in some dramatic scene that would just let her paint me as the bad guy. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I opened my laptop that night and started making a list of everything I knew, everything I had access to, everything I needed to do. Alice was passed out from champagne, had no idea that I was planning something that would change both our lives. The trained dog was about to show some new tricks. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've been methodically working through my list, setting things up, moving pieces around. Alice has noticed I've been a bit quiet, but I just blamed it on a work project. She believed me, because why wouldn't she? In her mind, I'm still that oblivious idiot who never questions anything. Yesterday was the last piece of the puzzle. I confirmed something I'd suspected but needed to be sure about. Won't go into details yet, but let's just say Alice and Holly's little game goes deeper than I initially thought. Tomorrow, everything changes. I've taken the day off work. Alice is going to her sister's for the weekend, thinking I'll be here waiting like I always am. Like that trained dog she laughed about. She has no idea what's coming. I've never felt so calm, so focused. It's like all those years of being taken advantage of have crystallized into this perfect clarity. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just ready. Ready to show Alice and Holly exactly who they've been playing with all this time. Update. OP here with the update you've all been waiting for. First off, thank you for all the comments, DMs, and awards on my last post. Never expected that kind of response. Reading your messages has been both validating and honestly a bit overwhelming. So, the last 2 weeks. Where do I even start? After discovering Alice's betrayal, I went through this weird calm phase, like unnaturally calm. I wasn't sleeping much, maybe 4 hours a night, but my mind was razor sharp. It's like all those emotions got channeled into pure focus. The morning after my last post, I noticed something strange. Alice asked if I wanted coffee while she was making some. She never does this. In 5 years of marriage, I've always made my own coffee. It was like she sensed something was off and was trying to be extra nice. Too little, too late. First thing I did was call my bank. Had to take my lunch break sitting in my car for privacy. Changed all my passwords, set up two-factor authentication, and requested new cards. Told them my wallet felt sketchy after a trip to the grocery store. They overnight shipped everything to my workplace, not home. When Alice texted asking why there was a fraud alert on our joint account, I just said I was updating security after reading about some data breach online. She bought it without question. The irony of her being concerned about fraud, lol. Next, I started a journal documenting everything. Screenshots of bank statements, credit card bills, records of all those gifts she'd given me. Photographed items around the house I'd paid for that she claimed were gifts. This wasn't just for divorce purposes. It was for my own sanity, to remind myself I wasn't crazy. Day by day, I made small changes. Stopped doing her laundry, always did mine plus hers before. Didn't ask her what she wanted for dinner every night. Started going to the gym after work instead of rushing home. Declined attending her friend's birthday dinner, something I'd never done before. Stopped texting her during the day to check in. Nothing dramatic enough to trigger alarm bells, but enough that she noticed. On day 4, she actually asked if everything was okay. I just shrugged and said work was stressful. The old Theo would have apologized profusely and tried to make it up to her. Not anymore. While all this was happening, I was also taking care of the bigger stuff behind the scenes. Found an apartment. Nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom about 20 minutes away. Paid the deposit and first month's rent from my personal savings account that she didn't know about. Started it 2 years ago for a surprise anniversary trip. Guess that was never happening now. Called a buddy from college who's a financial advisor. Met him for catching up drinks where we actually spent 3 hours going through my finances. His face, when I showed him what Alice had been doing, man, he helped me create a step-by-step plan to disentangle everything. One of the hardest parts? Not reacting when Alice would do or say something that now seems so obviously manipulative, like when she surprised me with takeout from my favorite place, paid for with my card, then expected endless gratitude, or when she complained about how tight money was after she'd spent $300 on new clothes. I kept thinking about all the red flags I'd missed over the years, how she'd get irritated whenever I wanted to check our joint account, the way she'd dismiss my budget concerns but always had new stuff, how she gradually isolated me from my friends, especially Jake and Mark, those girls' trips with Holly that always seemed to cost more than discussed, how she'd make me feel guilty for buying anything for myself. Speaking of friends, I reached out to Jake and Mark for the first time in like 2 years. Alice had always claimed they were bad influences or didn't respect our marriage. Turns out they'd tried to contact me multiple times, but Alice had told them I was too busy. We met up for beers, and it was like no time had passed. I didn't tell them everything yet, but it felt good to reconnect. Around day 8, I noticed Alice texting frantically more than usual. Later that night, I pretended to fall asleep on the couch, but actually saw her slip into the bathroom with her phone. The door wasn't fully closed, and I could hear her talking to Holly in hushed tones. Something's wrong with Theo. He's acting different. What if he knows something? Holly told her she was being paranoid, that I was too clueless to figure anything out. That comment made finalizing my plans so much easier. By day 10, I had opened new bank accounts at a different bank, transferred my direct deposit to the new account, documented all our assets and their approximate values, gathered all my important documents, birth certificate, passport, etc., quietly packed a suitcase with essentials and stored it in my car trunk, consulted with a divorce attorney, recommended by my financial advisor buddy. Alice was definitely sensing something was up. She tried initiating sex twice that week, something that had become pretty rare in our marriage. I made excuses about being tired. The confusion on her face almost made me laugh. The trained dog wasn't performing on command anymore. The Wednesday before everything went down, Holly came over for dinner. I played my role perfectly. The oblivious, slightly distant husband. Made small talk, cleaned up after dinner, then said I needed to finish some work and went upstairs. Instead, I sat at the top of the stairs, the same spot where I'd overheard them on Christmas morning. And wouldn't you know it, they started talking about me again. Alice was genuinely worried, said I was acting weird, distant, not texting her as much, not jumping to do things for her. Holly told her she was overthinking it, that men go through phases, and that Alice had me wrapped around her finger too tightly for anything to change. If only they knew. Friday morning came. The day Alice was leaving for her weekend at Holly's. I acted normal, helped her load her overnight bag into her car, kissed her goodbye. She seemed relieved that I was being normal again, said she'd miss me. I smiled and said I'd miss her too. As soon as her car disappeared down the street, I sprang into action, called a moving company I'd already arranged. They arrived 30 minutes later. In 3 hours, we loaded up all my furniture, stuff I'd brought into the marriage, my electronics, clothes, personal items, things I could prove I'd purchased with documentation, half of our kitchen items, being fair. I left all her clothes, her vanity, her desk, her bookshelves, anything that was clearly hers or that we'd bought together, and I couldn't prove I'd paid for solo. By mid-afternoon, the apartment was set up with my essentials. Not comfortable, but functional. The movers were awesome, didn't ask questions when I tipped them well. Next, I went to the bank and withdrawn exactly half of our joint savings account. Not a penny more, even though she'd been stealing from it for years. Wanted to be 100% legally clean. Back at the house, I set up the final touch. On the dining room table, I laid out copies of all credit card statements showing her purchases of my gifts, screenshots of the cash withdrawals she'd made, printouts of the Christmas gifts I'd actually bought her with receipts, a file of money she'd sent to Holly from our joint account, the audio recording of them talking about me being a trained dog. Yes, I went back and recorded their latest conversation, totally legal in my state. On top of all this, divorce papers from my lawyer. Next to this stack of evidence, I left my house key and wedding ring. Then I blocked her number on my phone, but not before sending one final text. The trained dog learned some new tricks. Enjoy your weekend with Holly. I did keep my phone unblocked for any other numbers, just in case of emergency. I'm not a monster. Then I went to my new apartment, ordered a pizza, cracked open a beer, and waited. Around 8 p.m., my phone exploded with notifications. Alice had clearly come home early and found everything. Text after text from unknown numbers. Her using friends' phones after realizing I'd blocked her. Voicemail, emails, social media messages. I didn't respond to any of them, just sat there, feeling this weight lift off my shoulders with each ignored message. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe properly. Then this morning around 10 a.m., it happened. The text from Holly. She's screaming, "Please answer her." I smiled, took a screenshot, and went back to assembling my new desk. To be continued. Final update. Final update time Reddit. Been a wild ride these past few weeks, and I owe you all the conclusion to this saga. Thanks for riding this emotional roller coaster with me. So, that text from Holly. She's screaming, "Please answer her." I stared at it for a good 10 minutes before doing anything. Part of me felt this twisted satisfaction. Another part felt empty, like I'd been running on pure adrenaline for 2 weeks and suddenly my body remembered to be exhausted. I didn't respond right away. Finished assembling my IKEA desk, those damn hex wrenches, am I right? Made some coffee, and took a shower. My phone kept buzzing. More texts from Holly. "This isn't funny anymore, Theo. She's having a breakdown. At least tell me where you took everything. She called your work and they said you took vacation days. That last one actually made me laugh out loud. Yeah, I'd planned for that too. Had 5 vacation days saved up that Alice didn't know about. Wasn't about to be at work dealing with this fallout." Around noon, I finally decided to reply to Holly. Just one message. "You both laughed at me on Christmas morning. Called me a trained dog. How's it feel to be on the other side?" She responded instantly. Said it was just girl talk. That I was taking it out of context. That Alice really loves me. Then in the next breath called me an asshole for abandoning my wife. The cognitive dissonance was honestly impressive. I blocked her number too. By evening, the messages had spread to email, social media, even LinkedIn LOL. Alice had gone full nuclear. Posted a status about how her husband had disappeared and taken everything, conveniently leaving out why. Her friends were commenting with the predictable, "OMG, are you okay?" and "What a monster" responses. Meanwhile, my friends Jake and Mark were texting me supportive messages. They'd apparently gotten hostile messages from Alice demanding to know where I was. They didn't know, of course, but wouldn't have told her anyway. That night was weird. First night alone in the new place. Air mattress. Real bed was being delivered next day. Takeout containers. Half-unpacked boxes everywhere. The silence was deafening after years of Alice's constant talking, TV shows, phone calls with Holly. I actually had to put on a podcast just to have some background noise. Slept like garbage. Woke up at 3 a.m. with this pit in my stomach. Not regret exactly, more like the reality of what was happening finally hitting me. 5 years of marriage over, starting completely over at 31. All those plans we'd made, the house renovations, maybe kids someday, those trip ideas, all gone. For like 30 minutes. I almost texted her. Almost. Then, I remembered the Christmas morning conversation. Remembered the bank statements. Remembered being called a trained dog. The pit in my stomach hardened into resolve. Day 2 post-escape, the texts from unknown numbers increased. Alice's parents now. Her dad's message was actually decent. Said he didn't know what happened, but hoped we could talk it through. Her mom's was less nice. Called me every name in the book. I didn't respond to either. Then, the mutual friends started reaching out. Most had clearly heard Alice's side only. A few asked for mine. I kept my responses simple. There are two sides to every story. I'll share mine when I'm ready. Meanwhile, I was settling into my new routine. Set up my gaming PC. Ordered groceries delivered, didn't want to risk running into Alice at our usual store. Started looking into gym memberships near the new place. Normal life stuff that felt strangely liberating. Day 3, I finally decided to check my email. Found a message from Alice timestamped 3:42 a.m. I know I messed up. Whatever you heard or think you heard, we can work through this. Please just talk to me. The house feels empty without you. I didn't mean. Holly was pressuring me to act cool and detached. You know how she is? Please come home. We can fix this. Classic Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Blaming Holly? Saying I think I heard something? The audacity was actually impressive. I forwarded it to my lawyer without responding. Later that day, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Holly, calling from a friend's phone. She sounded different, subdued. Said Alice had been staying with her since finding the house empty. Said Alice hadn't slept, was barely eating, had called in sick to work, then dropped the bomb. Alice had maxed out her personal credit cards already. Without access to my income and our joint accounts, she was apparently in serious financial trouble. Not my problem. I told Holly exactly that, then added that perhaps Alice should have thought about financial independence before treating me like an ATM for 5 years. Holly started to cry, actually apologized for her part in everything, said she never thought it would go this far. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Then I remembered her laughing at the trained dog comment and my sympathy evaporated. Before hanging up, I told Holly one thing. Tell Alice my lawyer will contact her next week. That's the only communication she's getting from me. Week 1 became week 2. I settled into my new place, hung some pictures, bought plants. Always wanted houseplants, but Alice said they were messy. The divorce paperwork was moving forward, slower than in movies, faster than I expected. Alice's approach shifted from rage to desperate bargaining. Flowers delivered to my work. How did she even find out I was back? A handwritten letter in my mailbox, definitely stalking me. Even a sad playlist shared to my Spotify, immediately blocked. Through it all, I maintained radio silence. Let the lawyers handle everything. The financial fallout hit her hard. Found out through a mutual friend that she had to get a roommate for our house. Couldn't afford the mortgage alone. That roommate? Holly. The irony was chef's kiss. 3 weeks post-escape, we had our first and only face-to-face meeting with lawyers present. Walking into that conference room and seeing Alice for the first time was intense. She looked smaller somehow, tired, hair pulled back messily, not the perfect styling I was used to seeing. The moment she saw me, she started crying, tried to approach me, but her lawyer held her back. My lawyer laid out my terms, selling the house and splitting proceeds, even though I'd put down most of the down payment. Division of assets already completed. What I took was documented as mine. No alimony. We'd both worked throughout the marriage. Clean break. No contact. Her lawyer countered with some ridiculous demands. She wanted the house, wanted me to pay outstanding credit card debt, wanted alimony. My lawyer simply pushed across the folder of evidence. The credit card statements, the recordings, the documented financial abuse. Alice's face when she realized I had receipts for everything, priceless. Her lawyer's expression changed too. They asked for a private consultation, and when they returned, their demands had shrunk considerably. We didn't settle everything that day, but the tone was set. This wasn't going to be Alice getting her way again. This was consequent. Outside the meeting, Alice tried one last time, grabbed my arm in the parking lot. Her lawyer had already left. She was crying, mascara running, saying she'd change, she'd get therapy, she'd never talk to Holly again if that's what I wanted. For a split second, I remembered the Alice I fell in love with. The woman who used to laugh at my bad jokes, who nursed me through that terrible flu 3 years ago, who looked so beautiful on our wedding day. Then I remembered Christmas morning. He's like a trained dog. I gently removed her hand from my arm and said the only words I would directly say to her, I deserve better than being someone's joke. So do you. Then I walked away. The divorce finalized 3 months later. Faster than average, my lawyer said, because we had no kids. And Alice ultimately didn't contest much once she saw the evidence. We sold the house, split the proceeds, divided the remaining assets, signed the papers, just like that. 5 years of marriage reduced to signatures and legal terminology. It's been 6 months now since that Christmas morning. Spring has turned to summer. My apartment feels like home now. I've reconnected with old friends, made some new ones, started taking a cooking class, something Alice always said I'd be terrible at. Turns out I'm not half bad. Alice? Last I heard through the grapevine, she's still living with Holly. Apparently, their perfect sister relationship cracked under the pressure of actually living together. Holly's boyfriend moved out when Alice moved in. The financial strain showed Holly who Alice really was, someone who takes and takes. Sometimes at night, I still find myself thinking about everything. Not with regret, but with this strange sense of wonder. How did I not see it for so long? Why did I accept being treated that way? Therapy is helping me understand that it wasn't weakness, it was trust. I trusted someone who didn't deserve it. Yesterday, I got a friend request on Instagram from Alice. I declined it without a second thought. 10 minutes later, a text from an unknown number. I miss you. I'm sorry, I've changed. I didn't respond. No need to. That chapter is closed. The trained dog learned new tricks, found a new home, and is finally off the leash. And you know what? Freedom feels pretty damn good.